Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let's be honest, while we do have all the new Vanguard and Pacific content here in Warzone, and it's cool for what it is, there is not a day that goes by without players saying they want Verdansk back. It's been a hot topic ever since the map was removed. It's sort of that nostalgia-based, man, we didn't know we were in the good old days until we left them, right? The quote from The Office. Well, it just so happens that the devs, Raven, has finally addressed the possibility of Verdansk ever coming back. This is the first time they've talked about it, really ever since it was removed, just before it was removed actually. We've got some pretty interesting information to break down here today as we go through it all. If you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated, and it does really help the channel grow. And of course, if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with everything going on in COD. So feel free to hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee you are up to date. And also right now, my G Fuel discount code WhosImmortal will actually get you 30% off your entire order. So if you want to grab a new tub, a shaker cup, a starter pack, anything at all from the G Fuel site, now is the best time to do so. Link will be down in the description below. Now, before we break down everything that was said in this interview, we got to look back at what the devs have said previously about Verdansk. It was a while back when the Pacific was first announced that this would be replacing Verdansk and Verdansk would be gone forever. As they said, Verdansk was being removed and it was not coming back. However, just before we saw the end of Verdansk entirely, we got a very interesting excerpt from a little blog that Raven and Call of Duty published that leaves the return of Verdansk open for interpretation. We talked about this in a video a little while back, actually. Essentially, in this blog, they said, we've yet to get declassified information on this Beanox developed event, obviously the end of Verdansk event, except for this. Expect a spectacular and fitting end to your time in Verdansk as we say farewell to the Castovian city, ... forever, ? So they don't end that with a direct statement, they end that with a question mark. For this exact reason, they wanted us to have this conversation and say, well, why'd they say forever with a question mark instead of forever with an exclamation point, deeming that it was in fact being removed forever and not being removed temporarily, and perhaps it could return at some point in the future. So from that point on, we have not heard anything at all about Verdansk. We did see the announcement of Call of Duty Mobile Warzone, which included a picture of a different reality Verdansk. It's definitely the Verdansk buildings, but it's not the same Verdansk map that we played on before, so that's kind of its own separate thing. At least that's what I'm assuming for the time being. But let's get into what happened in this interview. This was the same interview that we talked about a little bit ago between Josh from Raven, who I've talked to before in a previous call with the devs, and then also Teep on a live stream, and they talked about a ton of different stuff. We went over basically the entire contents of this interview in a video earlier on today, so feel free to check that one out if you have not already. But I wanted to save this specific point as its own conversation just because this is such a hot topic, right? Every single video I post, I get comments saying, hey, any word on Verdansk ever returning? Are they ever going to remove Caldera? What's the deal there? Now we finally have a response, but for what it's worth, before you get your hopes up, this is just a response. This is not an announcement. This is not a confirmation. This is just what the devs have been considering and thinking about behind the scenes. So the initial question here from Teep was, could we ever potentially see a map rotation, having Verdansk for a little bit and then having Caldera for a little bit? This is sort of a follow-up to having a seasonal weapon rotation, where every season we have a couple of different weapons taken from each category, and we have a meta of 50, 60, 70 weapons instead of 130 weapons to make it easier on the player base and the devs alike. And when this question was brought up about having Verdansk for some time, having Caldera for some time, Josh actually said, that's something that we want. Everybody at Raven wants this. They've discussed this in the past, but there are a lot of tech problems that stop this from being a reality right now, essentially. It primarily has to do with the install and the reinstall sizes, downloads and updates, which obviously is something that affects quite literally every single player, because if they removed Caldera and they added back in Verdansk, let's say it was for 2 weeks, then every single player, when that update went live, would have to essentially re-download the entire game for all the Verdansk assets in the entire Verdansk map. Yeah, we have parts of Verdansk still live on the Warzone app now in Modern Warfare multiplayer with Ground War, then also with Spec Ops and the various missions there. But if you play those maps, you'll notice what's rendered and what's on the disc is just those small sections of Verdansk. If you go in and play some of the operations in Spec Ops like we did in the video a little while back, you have the map that you're playing on. You can see like the whole airport area, but if you look to downtown, if you look over towards Karst River Quarry, it's just, you know, glitched textures. You can't see anything. Even Superstore in the airport mission wasn't rendered in, and that's to save space and to make it so that you don't have an entire map of Verdansk sitting on your hard drive taking up another 150 gigs. So every single time that they'd have to actually rotate the map, you'd have to remove all the Verdansk files and re-download all the Caldera files. We're talking 50, 60, 70 gig updates here that every single player would have to do on a frequent basis. You'd have to be rotating those maps to keep the game fresh. And if they did that, they say, as they've seen in the past, when you do frequent large updates like that and have title updates like that constantly, the player base actually does dwindle a little bit more. Now, that's not to say that would happen in the case of bringing Verdansk back. Obviously, a lot of players would jump on the game just to revisit that and play that map again. But then you take Caldera back in a couple of weeks, you have to re-download it all again. For players who have bad internet, which is the majority of players, I would imagine, that's a long time to commit to constantly downloading, copying everything. That's hours and hours and hours that you don't actually get to play the game if you're already on a limited schedule. 2 weeks later, you bring Verdansk back again, same cycle, hours and hours and hours of downloading. 2 weeks later, Caldera's back. Whatever schedule you put this on, over time, they've said that it has caused a drop-off in players as well, which is not obviously the end goal for them. So technical limitations are the main problem with having maps rotate and maps cycle, specifically between Caldera and Verdansk, obviously. But Josh also said because these are technical limitations right now, they're looking to the future with changes to combat that. I would imagine this is probably more so geared towards Warzone 2, where it's a lot more optimized and they're more prepared for big updates like this to happen in the future. But they also said they do have more info coming on this at some point in the future. They have more to share on this. He did not give a date. This could be in 3 months. This could be in 3 seasons. We have no idea. But having an actual map rotation, switching between Caldera and Verdansk is something that the devs want. It is something that they would like to try and do. They just have to figure out how they can do it effectively without actually hurting the player base more than they're helping it by bringing back the fan favorite map, or the map that so many players want to see return. Nevertheless, this is an official response to all the outcry, all the requests to bring back Verdansk or even cycle the maps. This is the first time we've had any sort of response to this subject. Like I said, since they left that very open-ended statement in the blog post. Could this be goodbye to Verdansk forever? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We finally have an answer here that it is a possibility. Will it happen? We don't know for sure, but it is something that is being looked into. Hopefully that's a stem of good news. You know, it's not the best news in the world. That would be a confirmation that, hey, Verdansk is coming back next week, and then in a month, we're going to see Caldera return and flip-flop back and forth. But all that being said, that is going to wrap things up for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. It really does help the channel grow. And if you're new here, or if you have not already subscribed, each and every single day I got you covered with all things going on in the world of Call of Duty. So feel free to hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications. That way you'll always know whenever I post a new video. And as always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL for a discount on all Scuff, G Fuel, Gamer Advantage, and Control Freak products. And links for all those can be found down in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.